Welcome to episode number 358 of the Church Solutions podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve, here in Tucson, Arizona, we've had a cold snap. Things have been a little chilly here.
I know.
The
I'm
40s
not sure
at
how
night.
we're handling it.
I know it's hard.
It's like in the 60s in the middle of the day.
We're suffering.
Yes.
We're suffering here, suffering for Jesus here. But it'll warm up. It should get back in the late early 80s or late 70s, something like that. So, all right. Well, Steve, today we have a special guest.
We do. Who is that? Who is our special guest?
Every guest is special, but we have Janise J with us. And actually, Janise Russ is her name. And I'm just going to, you were telling me before we started this that you kind of have a nickname, Nisi J.
Yes, Nisi J.
So Nisi J, welcome to the Church Solutions podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. I'm doing great. How are you?
Right. We're doing really well. We're doing fine. And you actually, although you're in Panama City, Florida, you actually graduated high school here in Tucson.
Yes, I am a Palo Verde Titan class of 2004.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. So you are young. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Just turned 37.
37. Wow, you don't look it. You look like you're a teen. My goodness.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you. All right. So I'm just going to call you Nisi J because I think it's pretty cool. You've got a lot of things going on in your life, and we thought it would be good to have you on.
Thank you.
Because you are involved in your church. You're going to go to ministry school here in a little bit, but you're actually a videographer, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to let Steve Lacy here ask you questions because he does a better job at asking questions. He doesn't offend people like I do, but let's talk a little bit about that. We can also talk a little bit about ministry and all that. So go ahead, Jackson. Jackson's actually his real name. So we all have different names here, but go ahead, Steve.
There we go. So videographer, tell me a little bit about your videography background and what motivates you to get into videography.
Okay, well, I've been filming for about 10 years. The first several years, I owned a company called Janise Russ Films with a friend at the time. But when you have, you can't share your goals just with anybody. So, and that's where we kind of messed up at and why we didn't last for past the 7 years. We had a kind of a deal as, okay, she was a great playwright, and we wanted to get her poems out to the world. I'm not her poems, but her plays out to the world. This is during the time Tyler Perry kind of came out too, so he was our motivation. Yeah. And so we was like, well, I got this job in California. I was gonna go to California, edit for this lady, learn the filming business with her, come back and we could start our business. But while I was gone, she kind of met somebody, told her about what we were doing. And she was like, well, I can edit while she's gone in California. So just bringing her into our business kind of created friction. And we dealt with that friction for several years. And then after a while, I was like, okay, I don't think this is for me. And I came to a point in my life where I realized I need to change the people I hung out with, my mind frame, and my habits. So ever since I did that, now I film with confidence and purpose. And also that's what started my YouTube page. Because, I kind of just deleted everybody out my life that wasn't good for me. And I really honed in. I already knew how to film, but I knew how to edit. So I really honed in. I'm teaching myself how to edit. So I dove into YouTube, but I dealt with a lot of excuses for myself. Like, I'll start my YouTube page. I need to lose a little weight first. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to get my hair in a different way. But God was just telling me, just do it, Janise. Just do it. So, and the funny thing is, if I gave into my excuses, I'm literally the same weight that I was 3 years ago. So I would have never started my YouTube page. And that's the funny thing, when we're stepping into something we're unsure of, all these excuses come out of nowhere. So I started my YouTube page, and also I ran into a wonderful group of people from AME, Ashton Martin Entertainment. Um, we have a manager, Dicuria. We have a music artist, Ashton Martin, and another music artist, One Drew. And together, we're just a group of people who produce content that will inspire you. And we've just been rocking and rolling ever since.
Well, initially I commend you for the changes you made in your life. I have an older brother that went through a very similar situation where I was much younger at the time. I didn't completely understand it at the time, but he basically said hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
And he was living at home at the time. He was in high school. He said, if any of my friends call, I'm not around. And he just kind of went underground until he formed a whole new circle of friends. I thought it was just amazing, as I'm hearing about it later as I grew up. But I commend you on that. So back to, we're in the streaming arena. So a lot of our audience is live streaming their services. And when you talk about videography, that's where I wanted to ask some questions about, is that you mentioned it's the capture of the videography and how you capture it, but it's also the editing part of it as well.
Yes. When it comes to videography, it could be anyone. If you pick up a camera and you shoot a documentary, you shoot your service at church, you shoot anything, a music video, because that's what I do, mainly music videos, you're a videographer. And just by definition, the difference between a videographer and a cinematographer mainly has a crew with them. They have someone that does lights, the audio, just a big crew behind them. And mainly a videographer can really shoot by themselves, but it really does help if you have one or two helpers with you.
So you're a professional here. I assume you've seen some online church services as well, attended church online. Is there some common mistakes that you see that churches are making where it becomes cringeworthy, or you think, oh my gosh, they made this mistake or that mistake? Is there some common mistakes that you see?
The only thing is when I'm watching a service or whatnot, and let's say not even just church service, a regular event, and let's say someone is starting to, maybe touch their nose or pick their nose or do something that might be embarrassing on camera, and they don't move the camera fast enough. That's what kind of bothers me, because I get so embarrassed, for the person on the screen. I'm like, oh, come on, move the camera. That's the only thing I could think
A
of.
lot of times they have no idea that they're up in front of the congregation, but a lot of times I know at my church we have several cameras, and so they don't know that we're shooting them. Our biggest problem though has been where the camera guy is they're focused on a performer in the worship band or something like that, and they're just standing there. That this part of the song they have no lyric, they have no. And you're just like, okay, camera guy, get off of that shot. They're not doing anything crazy, but we've seen that. So
can I divert? Can I jump in here now? I want to ask you a question, Janise, about you mentioned music video stuff and videography. Do you think there's a place for that within the church? So what I'm getting at here is, there's lots of music videos out there. You've been a part of them and all that stuff. But if somebody's listening to this podcast, we have tech people, as Steve mentioned earlier, we do streaming video, streamingchurch.tv. But because we've been involved in ministry all our lives, all of us here, we talk about a lot of different topics besides tech stuff. But getting back to videography, is there a place for videographers in the church today, and even doing music videos? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I do feel like there is a place. I actually used my church members and my pastor, because my pastor, who's my father, he was actually a part of a song at the end. He was giving some words of encouragement at the end of the song, and the church family wanted to be a part of that music video. So I just shot a scene of them just sitting in the choir listening to him, basically preaching. And and with music videos, the main word is music. If you have a song, if someone in the song, church has a song, a gospel song, a Christian song, a worship song, you can make a music video out of it. And but I know a lot of people, what they're doing, especially since COVID, they're just getting in the studio and just filming that as their music video. So just having different shots instead of it being filmed as a traditional music video, you know, with the different transitions and stuff. They're just sitting there, and that does the same effect. You just have to have the equipment for that. And I feel like even though that might be an easier set, if you don't have that type of equipment with your audio, connecting your audio to your soundboard, the correct lighting, it could be a little more difficult for you instead of just having your camera, shooting the shots and editing it in post. But yeah, of course, there's room for it. And because everybody knows I shoot film, someone always wants me to shoot something for them. Hey, can you film me this? Because sometimes we have in our church, we have a weekly I forgot, I don't want to call it revival, but we just come together for a whole week. And some of them still not comfortable with coming to the church due to COVID or whatnot, or they have to work during the day. So I film their section of their service, edit it, and place it on the Zoom service. So yeah, there's definitely room for music videos and videography in the church.
Yeah. So as you do the videography piece of it, and we actually at one time had hired some videographers for our company to do some stuff to work for us as well. As you work with your subjects, what is the most common thing that you're telling your subjects in order to make a better video presentation out of it?
Really is just calming their nerves and letting them understand that with how they're feeling right now, they might be feeling uncomfortable. It's natural, but I'm going to walk you through it. And I also make sure, I know a lot of people, I hate when someone takes a picture of me, they don't let me know if something's hanging in my face or my, you know, something like that. I let them know, look, I'm gonna look out for you. If something doesn't look right, I'm gonna let you know, hey, fix this, fix that. I know I was filming a wedding a couple weekends ago, and I was getting a nice little slow-mo shot of the groom kind of buttoning his shirt, but his knuckles were white. I said, let's get some lotion and let's shoot this again. So just really paying attention to them, making them feel comfortable, knowing that you're taking care of them. That puts them at ease and helps them be a better subject.
I think people, I know years ago, a lot of people don't like the sound of their voice, you know, their voice. But I think that's probably true now that the video age has been upon us for a while. Many people kind of don't like the way they look on video,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing, even when I'm shooting music videos, I always know that we're going to start an hour late because usually the subject is so nervous that day. They're changing their clothes. They're not liking the way they look. So they always end up showing up late. And so now that used to frustrate me, but now I put that in the schedule. Okay, we're going to start really at this time, but I'm going to tell them to be here at this time. Tell them to be here at 12, but I know we're going to start at 1.
That's what I do with my wife. I tell her we have to be somewhere at a certain time, but it's always an hour later, so we get there on time.
So yeah, I tried to tell my dad to do that. So Dad, you might want to start telling Mom a different time, but it doesn't work. Because Mom was like, "No, but it starts at 12. Why are you telling me to be ready at?" So she just.
So one of the things that's jumped out at me since I volunteer at our church and I'm the video switcher in the back, and we're, I don't know, let's call us average to maybe above average. We have 3 cameras, and so so now that I've done a little of that for actually several years, and then I come home and my wife is watching some music awards or a music video or some other band playing. I noticed that I never noticed it before, but I noticed the length of the shots and the amount of cutaways is just crazy. I know that I'll sit there and watch something that's on television and count how long they stay on a shot, and then which is like with at church we're doing just we're not doing that level at all. Is that What's your thoughts on that? What is that a technique that that videographers are using, and why do they do that? Why so many different angles and so many different? Just they'll go for
A few
a
seconds.
second. Yeah.
It's really because of the human attention span. Um, you could be watching a documentary that you're really not really into, but because the camera just keeps shifting, it kind of keeps you engaged. So it's all about keeping you engaged, keeping you entertained. Because if you're just staring at a shot and it just stays there the whole time, you start daydreaming, kind of. But if it's moving, it's keeping. It's all about that.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and I'm just very much just a student of this. I've noticed that if I watch a really well done video, if someone's explaining something, they're not just sitting there talking the whole time. They edit in, images of what they're talking about, or and so that, like, just like you said, just the change of the shot just keeps people's attention, keeps them awake, I guess.
Yeah, that's why TikTok has been doing so well, because those videos are just so fast, something always popping in. It might be a little too overstimulating, but yeah. So
Yeah. So is that something you would recommend for churches? If they have a couple of, I mean, if you only have one camera, then you're definitely gonna be struggling, but you can zoom and pan
yeah,
and do things like that. But
I recommend do the best with what you have. If you just have one camera, every once in a while, do a little zoom in, a little zoom out every once in a while. Of course, you have better equipment or more equipment. Just pan different, like you were saying, switch between the cameras and the different angles, and just don't get too crazy and don't even overthink it. Just kind of feel your way through it.
Do you think, Steve mentioned his church has three cameras. Do you think, just from your professional opinion, do you think there should be a number, if a church has, like, I had somebody talk to me yesterday about budget for cameras. They have $50,000 to $70,000, which I think is good, but I guess you could spend a lot more on cameras. But do you think three cameras is enough for a church? You think they should have six cameras? I mean, just your opinion. What do you think? The more the merrier?
I Well, it really depends on maybe the size of your church, but because our church, for the budget that we have, we only have one camera, but I would love to have at least three, because you got that, you got that center view and you got the right and the left angle.
Yeah.
I like that. And I notice some churches, they have two handheld cameras up front on the left and right. I like that as well. So I would love to have three, but work with what you have. Just
Yeah.
get the message out there.
This goes to show how old I am, but I remember when a lot of these reality TV shows and other and not even reality, even now these comedy shows like The Office and stuff, they would have like these cameras moving around on people, which has kind of become the norm, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, back then when I was, watching TV, that was like a new thing. Like, wow, they're moving the camera around a lot. But and I've heard some people, I think we've had people on this podcast that have talked about, yeah, that's a good thing to do. You should do that. That kind of breaks things up for people doing streaming video. I guess, would you agree?
Yeah, it just gives you another feel, it's supposed to make you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
Like you're a part of the service, you're right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's another thing you can add to your
and
your
you would do
setup.
that. You do that in music videos, I guess,
Oh
too.
yeah, you do that in music videos.
so,
Yeah.
That's
Phil, do you
obvious.
remember the phrase?
Do I remember
the phrase that that person was? I don't know why it stuck
you
with me.
have
It
it
stuck with me for
memorized.
years. I
You have
do.
it. Go ahead and tell. I can't remember. I remember what you're talking
And
about, but
I've
I don't
used
remember
it.
the phrase.
It was this person was saying that motion is emotion. So they basically said, if you could put some motion in the camera, then it, like you were just saying, Janise, that it makes you feel like you're there. So it makes you feel like you're part of it. If, because so they were highly, and I noticed that when I watch music videos or just, performances where there's a band playing, It's a lot of times, which I assume would be very challenging as a video switcher guy in the back, because a lot of the shots I see, there's a guy walking, and panning across something, and then it's just, and then another one's doing. So
Yeah.
as a switcher, you'd have to let people know that, hey, while you're moving, I'm gonna take this shot.
Yeah, I have to give it up to you video switchers. That looks like a very demanding job.
Well,
Yeah.
we do, I think, a very average job, since we're,
Because you're live. Yeah.
yes,
I
well,
love
Yeah.
it.
it is live, but yes,
Yeah.
and we don't have a camera crew, so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, a
Okay.
whole production crew.
Right. Let me jump in and ask you a question here. So, Janise, you are in your 30s now. You're a young Black woman. Do you see women, and especially women of color, are they getting more involved in videography? Are they getting more involved in that, or do you feel like there's a need for that, the door to be open for that?
Yeah, I'm starting to see that. I'm starting to see that. Me and my friend at the time that started our previous business, we were the only female videographers in our area, and we had to fight through a lot. We had to prove that we were just as good. Actually, we were better than a lot of them, but
Right.
and what we did is we lowered our prices. But when you do that, you kind of lowering your respect.
Right.
So even though we lowered our prices, we still were having a bad time. We would prove that our videos are better or just as good, and we just wasn't getting that respect. But I did now learn to respect myself, respect what I know, and let that reflect in my prices and with my work. So yeah, I'm starting to notice a lot of women getting into filming, even into movies and TV shows. I can't think of her name.
Uh,
She did.
yeah. I think I can't remember. I think I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. She did How to Get Away with Murder. I don't know if it's that director. I can't
It might have been.
Hmm.
My wife watches
So,
those things, so I just
uh,
casually walk in and see something. Oh, that's interesting, and then I walk out. Yeah.
so, so is there a role for a videographer for a church? Should the church be out looking and evaluating videographers?
Yeah. If you need something that deals with a camera, get you a videographer. Yeah.
All right.
Help you
So
out.
even if they've got their volunteer, staff and volunteer camera guys, volunteer switchers, that volunteer audio, should churches be looking? I guess they should be looking for a videographer to coach them, or and what kind of services would a videographer provide to a church?
Yeah, of course. If you I feel like we all have room for improvement. So if you it wouldn't hurt to have a small workshop with a videographer come in, kind of look at what you have, see where you can improve. Yeah, that would help most definitely. And also with the volunteers that you already have, you might be doing a good job already. You
But
know, 'cause-
how could I learn more, though? Like, if I'm listening to this
Mhm.
podcast and I'm a young person and maybe I'm helping in the tech department of my church, and it's just this really interests me. Do I have to go to school for this? Can I get away without going to school? What would you recommend for somebody listening right now that says, hey, I'm really interested in this? How can I learn more?
Yeah, of course. Let's say you don't have the money for school, you don't have the time, you have a family, you have kids, you have a job, you just don't have time to go back to school. You do not have to go to school. I didn't go to school for filming. Um, I just picked up a camera and did it. And every time you pick up a camera, you feel something, you learn from your mistakes. And also YouTube University. Go to YouTube. I learned so much. I taught myself how to edit. I use YouTube all the time when I'm editing. I go to YouTube if I have a question. YouTube is You're in a couple sites like Udemy, Udemy. They have classes on there. So if you find like a website where you can get that the first 30 days free and sign up, get some of those filming courses, editing courses, or whatnot, yeah, you'll be good to go.
Interesting. All right, so we're running out of time here, but you had mentioned, I saw something I think in your bio or something about AME. And so when I saw AME, I was thinking it was a denomination.
Yeah, a lot of
But
people think
what your AME, you're talking about.
Ashton Martin Entertainment.
Okay. All right. So quickly tell me about that.
Mhm.
And then quickly tell me about your transition. You're going to go to ministry school. So handle those two questions for me.
Okay. Ashton Martin Entertainment, like I said earlier, um, uh, is owned by Dicuria and Ashton Martin, husband and wife. They're the founders and CEOs. Dicuria is the manager. Man, she's the best manager we could ever have. She meets with us weekly, making sure we stay on top of our goals. She's just the best organizer. Just anything that you could possibly need in a person is in Dicuria. Her husband, Ashton Martin, he's one of the music artists. He his music is just straight from his heart, from his emotions, from his past, from things that he's learned. So they could be very inspirational. One Drew, he's also an artist. He's very unique. They're actually all from a small town in Florida. I don't know if you heard of Jackson County. They're from that area. So it's crazy that they lived down the road from each other this whole time, but they didn't meet each other from maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But we all just have this connection with each other. We're all headed in the same direction. And
So if I've got people in my church, young people in my church, is the content that he's producing that, I mean, is that something that's acceptable for the youth? And I say that because, my son has listened to a lot of different stuff, and sometimes he has it on, I'll go, my gosh, what is that? I mean, it's not good, be honest with you. But I mean, so is the content
yes. Ashton Martin,
inspirational?
he has clean music, inspirational music, just with a hip hop beat.
Okay, right.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's clean. Some mornings, if I'm having a slow morning, I put on some Ashton Martin music, get pumped up.
Okay.
But yes, you could definitely listen to it.
Okay. All right. Tell us. I said Steve could ask you questions, but now I'm taking over. We're
Okay.
running out of time here. Tell us, you're going to go to a ministry school. Where are you going, and what's your goals for that?
Okay, I plan on going to the Baptist College of Florida down the road in Graceville, Florida. It's about an hour from me.
Mhm.
I love the school because it's in a very small town, so the tuition is great.
Okay.
But yeah, I did. If you would have asked me this a couple years ago, I would have told you were crazy because I like to say that God set me up. My dad had cancer and he left town to get surgery, but he forgot to set up the virtual church, have somebody to facilitate it. So he called me on his hospital bed. He's like, Janise, can you facilitate the service? I was like, Dad, I don't know how. What do you want me to do? He's like, just introduce whoever's next. That's all you got to do. So I said, okay. But as I started doing it Sunday after Sunday, it just became like a burning desire just to help the people of God. And I was like, God, what is going on? I was like, I can't stop wanting to learn your word, learning how to just issue in your people into worship. Like, I can't stop. And I fought with it. I fought with it. Like the devil was fighting with me. Like, you don't want to tell your dad you're in the ministry. You're a female. Your dad doesn't want to hear that. And finally, I just said, okay, God, this is what you want me to do. I said, Dad, God has called me into ministry. He said, okay, I've been waiting for you to say that. So, and here we are. So, and every Sunday, I'm just learning how to just public speak so I do words of encouragement every Sunday. So once I get my license, we go up from there.
All right. Well, good deal. So we're running out of time here. Steve, any last comments or questions there for
I think
ECJ?
that's it. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, Phil. It was such a pleasure.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and we're excited for you. And I think you got some good stuff. How can people reach you if somebody's got questions for you or whatever? How could they reach you?
Okay, you can email me at nisejprod. That's NISEE jprod@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Nisi_J. You can follow me on Facebook, Nisi J, and my YouTube, Nisi J.
All right, good deal. All right, so Janise Russ has been our guest today, otherwise known as Nisi J. I like that. I want to stay in touch with you. I want to find out how you're doing. I want you to keep us posted on things. Can you do that?
Of course, of course.
All right, well, good. All right, well, thank you, Steve. And most of all, thank you, folks, for listening or watching the Church Solutions podcast. Please take care of yourselves and each other. I'm Phil Thompson. Until next time, take care.